We're back.
Welcome back to Wine Time with AARP Missouri. We missed you guys last week and hope everybody had a wonderful long holiday weekend. So if you've missed any of our Wine Time episodes, go to our Facebook page or our YouTube channel and check those out. There's some great information there.
Hey, speaking of going to other pages and stuff, have people gone to the website to sign up for the magnet and to get a chance to win one of the wine totes?
They sure have. So, and again, we encourage you, this is what the magnet will look like. So once you register for the magnet, then you are automatically in the drawing to win, drum roll, this beautiful wine tote. It's actually a nice backpack. So it's got the straps, or you can carry it up here, but it's big. It's much bigger than I thought it was going to be. And the nice insulation, so you can put lots of big bottles of wine and some snacks in here. So again, register for your magnet, and then you're automatically in to win the wine tote. So again, that will go until October 6th, and our winners will be notified on October 7th, but don't delay. So go ahead and enter. And then if you've already signed up, these are in the mail, so they'll be coming your way. So be on the lookout.
Awesome. I love that tote. That backpack feature is amazing because wine is heavy until you drink it. So.
That's right. Absolutely.
So yeah, so on our last episode, we encouraged the folks when they tuned in this week, because we're talking about red wines, to show up with a snack. You know, bring something with some meat and cheese. Yeah, cheeseburger, just fine. Not a problem. All in with that. Maybe a charcuterie tray if you're fancy. So you're very nice, very nice. Looks you're prepared, definitely. If you forgot that part, you may want to run and get something real quick. We're going to go over a couple things before we get started into tasting the wines. Some great info. You don't want to miss it, but you'd rather miss that than the tasting of the wines. So
that's right.
Definitely. So yeah, definitely go with something to eat. And then in the comments, tell us what you're drinking tonight, or what you're having as a snack, or both. Or if you have any questions, throw them up there. We're always game. Speaking of which, actually, there was a question last week, which came first, the white grape, or last episode, white grape or the red grape?
Yep.
Not definitive, but I did some research, and it looks like red grapes have been around longer than white grapes. So.
Oh, nice, nice. Well, that's good to know for sure. So
yeah, definitely.
And thanks for getting back to us on that. So
absolutely.
We don't want anybody hanging, that's for sure. So Dave, I've noticed that on some of the labels of the wine, they say contains sulfites, and is that a bad thing for us?
So that stems from something that came about in the 70s and 80s when the healthy salad bar started making a big foray into our world, and they used to spray all the cut fruits and vegetables with sulfites, with a sulfur solution, and it was up to 2,000 parts per million. I mean, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
That was a lot. So the FDA started to get some complaints. Some people were having some adverse reaction to these sulfites, and so it's kind of estimated that between 0.4% and 1% of the population has a sulfite intolerance of some sort, and usually it's mostly folks that have also asthma. So they decided to implement some regulations on different products about notifying folks that there's sulfites in it. So with wine, is one of them that they've regulated the most for some reason. They maxed those out at, you can have a maximum of 350 parts per million of sulfites in wine. Most of them today actually only have less than 100 parts per million. So there's really not that much in wine. Wine is used in the winemaking process. Essentially, it stabilizes the wine during the process. It lets the good bacteria and yeast do their things, and lets some that they don't want kind of keeps them at bay.
Okay, yeah.
So but there are a lot of other things out there that have sulfites in them that we don't realize, but wine is one of them that has to be labeled. It's found in beer, cocktail mixes, cookies, tortillas, sugar, shrimp, dried fruits, deli meat, fruit juices. Yeah. And a lot of them in a much higher concentration than we find in our wine. So
my goodness, who knew, right? I mean, that is so interesting that cookies and shrimp and juice could contain these. So, wow, we'll have to pay better attention, I guess, when we're looking at our labels for food.
Exactly.
So, but you know what, Dave, when I've been able to travel, sometimes it doesn't necessarily say contains sulfites on the labels. So do they not use that in in winemaking in other countries, or how does that work?
So that basically just means that that country doesn't require a contained sulfite
Oh,
designation on their labels.
okay, different regulations.
Different regulations, different countries, different governments. So the labeling has caused a lot of fear and confusion, I guess is a good word, about sulfites and intolerance. So it's likely a lot of people will say, "Oh, I get a headache from it, or it causes some kind of reaction. I get, flush or whatever. Is that sulfites?" And actually, like the headaches, for example, probably come from not drinking enough water, not hydrating while you're drinking the wine. And I have noticed this, especially as I progress in years, that I get a headache if I don't drink enough water along with it. So I do a glass for a glass typically, and I'm pretty good after that. So um, there are some components in wine called glycoproteins that may mimic some allergens like ragweed or latex or something like that. But I really don't know that much about those. They're fairly new. I think they were just kind of discovered in around 2010.
Oh, wow.
Um, and so that's the whole other thing, and we won't bore people with that. So
Well, we have sure been talking about a lot of science and making wine. So, are we going to get to try some tonight?
it's about that time, definitely.
Great.
So our first wine today is actually a red blend from California. It's this one right here. And a lot of times, I say a red blend. A lot of times we think about wines from the U.S., especially, and they'll say Chardonnay or Cabernet Sauvignon or Pinot Noir or something Zinfandel, something like that on them. But sometimes we'll see a wine that just has a an odd name or something that doesn't say anything about the grapes that are in it. It'll tell you where it's from because it has to be on the label, but it doesn't say what it's made of. Essentially what grapes go into it. So typically these will be a blend of any type of red wine. Typically, they'll have might have a Zinfandel for a base, or Pinot Noir, or even Merlot or something like that, and they'll contain little bits of other things. And they'll be basically they're blended to be easy on the palate. They're going to be very simple, not simple, but very easy to drink. They're not they're very smooth, low tannins, usually a little bit of residual sugar, not enough to make them sweet necessarily. Some are a little on the sweet side, but mostly that is just going to add a little bit of like a lushness, a velvety kind of texture to it. So that's what that's for. So a lot of times you'll see that in these. They aren't meant to age. They really aren't meant to go with a specific food. They're basically no hassle, easy to drink red wines. And not that there's anything wrong with that. I think of them as like a gateway wine to get a gateway red wine to get your palate used to some of the attributes of a red wine.
Like me.
But like you. But if you never move past them, then you're really missing out on some of the great red wines that are out there. So
Good to know. That's what wine time is all about, trying
right.
new things, right?
That's right.
Very interesting. Well, one of the things, Dave, that you said, and you've said it before, and you said it again, was you mentioned that word tannins. And so tell us exactly what is that?
So tannins are a phenolic, that's a big word, compound that exists in wines. And it's kind of what makes your mouth feel dry or cottony, makes your kind of tongue stick to the roof of your mouth, kind of makes you feel like maybe you need to shave your teeth kind of thing. So that's what the tannins are. A lot of people will associate it with, oh, it's a dry wine. And
Right.
dry actually refers to the level of sugar in the wine, not in the mouthfeel of the wine. So a high tannin wine are the ones that are going to give you that kind of sticky feel kind of in your mouth.
Okay. So could that come from even the oak barrels?
So oak actually does contain some tannins, but in the process of making wine, they impart very little
Oh,
very little tannins into the wine. Oak aging typically will add vanilla,
mm,
caramel, baking spice flavors.
mm,
You think about when we tasted the Chardonnay in the last episode, that was aged in oak, but it didn't have any of the tannins, but it got some of that caramel and some of that, that spice, kind of baking spice feel to it. Tannins are present in wine because they're present in grape skins, grape stems, and grape seeds. And so we talked also in the white and the rosé sections about how they make those. They press the wine and they pull the skins and the stems out. Well, we also talked that grape juice is clear. And so red wines get their color from staying in contact with those skins. So they impart that red color into the wine. They also impart those tannins and some other phenolics as well that give a red wine, a little more structure, a little different mouthfeel. So we're going to demonstrate it here in a little bit on how tannins help red wine stand up with different foods. That's why I had you bring a snack tonight. So we're gonna get to that. And it also helps red wines age a lot longer in some cases than typically in whites and all rosés. Most rosés don't age well at all. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So this is a red blend from California. So let's give it the 6S treatment real quick. So we see it. Yep, it's red. That's all that matters, right? And then we're gonna swirl it. So if you're a beginner, put it on the table, swirl it like this, or if you've had too much to drink already, do it like this, or you'll fling it all over yourself. So give it a sniff, get your nose down in there, and then we're gonna, again, I always forget to say this part, sip, swish, savor, because I'll have wine in my mouth soon. So if you're not used to drinking red wines, the tannins can throw you off a little bit. So let's try an experiment. So take another drink, and then go ahead and make the face. It's okay.
I can feel it.
Yeah, this is thrilling television, or watching for folks. Now, take a bite of something like we talked about. Like I have a piece of salami that I'm going to try. So, and chew it all around in your mouth. Don't just swallow it right away. Chew it on like both sides of your mouth. Kind of roll it around in there before you swallow it. And then take another drink of the wine. And so all the proteins and the fats in that wine coat your mouth and kind of encapsulate those tannins and let the fruit shine through.
It's a totally different wine after taking a bite of that.
See? So that's why I always encourage people who are trying to get into red wines, don't do it unless you've got food. So, I tell people, just get a cheeseburger on the way home and then crack this one open and you'll be good to go.
That's pretty good.
So you like it better after the food, right?
I do, definitely. Food does help for sure. So in our 3, I've got 1 down. So far, this is my favorite. But
good. Keep your notes. There we go.
That's right. So Dave, I know that you love drinking wine and you have a passion about it. But what intrigues you about wine?
So other than, like you said, drinking it, wine is unique in the world of food and beverage, I think. Especially in the realm of alcoholic beverages. Unlike spirits or beer, you get 1 shot a year at doing it. Grapes are harvested 1 time per year in the area that you're at, and you have to start the winemaking process immediately after you harvest them. They'll pick them at night and they'll take them to the crush pad, and that process starts immediately. Also, throughout that, from way back, even in the beginning, the vineyard manager and the winemaker, if they're different people or they're the same person or whatever, make decision on top of decision that affects how that vintage, they can make or break a vintage by that. And like I said, they pile up on top of each other. So if you throw into that fact that there's a year's worth of weather that plays into how that wine's going to turn out, I mean, it grows outside, it's affected by it. So, and you also, where is it planted? How much time do you invest in it? That's the crazy thing. If you plant a vineyard for grapes to make wine out of, it's going to be 3 to 4 years before you ever get enough in quality of grapes that you can make wine. And then you're going to take the time to make that wine. And then it may have to age, some red wines age 2 years in the barrel and a year in the bottle before they get released. So you're at 7 years from the time you plant those grapes before you sell your first wine. So anyway.
Have some patience, I would think.
Yeah, patience, definitely. And it helps to have money in the bank to do that. So, so given all of that goes into it, and there's so much more than just what I offered there, if it's done right, you end up with a product in a bottle that you can take to your house or to a picnic or wherever and open it up, and it's so elegant and so beautiful and so versatile. And it just represents that moment in history when that was put in that bottle and everything that happened before it.
So it was all worth it.
It was all worth it. And so that's one of the things I really love about wine. So anyway, so let's go on and jump to the second wine because
Okay.
I love Cabernet Sauvignon.
I know you do.
So like a lot of the grapes we talk about originated in France. It's a major component that makes up the wines from Bordeaux. It's grown in other parts of the world as well. California, one of my favorite places to get it from. Obviously, Napa, it's really famous for. Argentina, Spain, Australia, Italy, Chile, South Africa, lots of places grow Cabernet Sauvignon around the world. This specific one is from Chile, and it's fairly easy to drink. I didn't want to drop a big Napa Cab or a French Bordeaux on you.
Appreciate that.
Knowing that you're a newbie to the red wine thing, and even to the dry wine thing. So we may pick up a little bit of berry, maybe some black cherry and some fig or pepper. So let's see how it is.
Okay.
Don't forget, you can take a bite too and see what you think of it.
Oh, should I take a bite before or after?
However you want to do it. Yeah.
We'll do it again. Okay.
I didn't see the face.
No face on that one. So I'm going to try a fig since you said there may be some.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah, I like that. Again, it's not a huge. This one doesn't. Some Cabernets you drink, they just beg to be eaten with a ribeye, or something like that. This one is interesting enough and structured enough to go well with food, but it doesn't have to. You can
really smooth. It's really smooth, and I don't feel that
sit on a back porch and drink this one. So
and it doesn't feel oaky to me. It doesn't make me want to shave my teeth or anything like that. So that's got some nice flavor to it for sure.
Yeah, but you still feel a little bit of that grip on your tongue.
My tongue, exactly. Yep, sure do.
It's got enough of that. So anyway, yep.
So Dave, last time we were together, we talked about how to become a winemaker and even the universities that were awarding degrees for that. But what if you work in the wine industry or restaurant industry and you want to learn more about wine and just use it in your career? Where do you go? What do you do?
That's a great question. And sorry, I just took a drink, but my advice for folks who work in the food and beverage industry is to always be learning. Knowing even a little bit about wine will be beneficial to your career and your income, actually. For a quick example, if you are a server at a restaurant, you have a table of 4 folks come in, and let's say your average food check, the average person spends $30 per person at your restaurant. So it's a nicer restaurant, but so that's $120, right? That you've got, that you're going to get from that table. The restaurant is, and you're going to get tipped on that amount.
Yep.
So if you sell them that table a $30 bottle of wine, which is really pretty restaurant wine prices, that's not bad, right? So if you sell them that $30 bottle of wine, well, now you've got 5 $30 things that just got sold at that table that you get tipped on. So you've increased your tip potential by basically adding another seat to the table.
Sure.
And if you sell them a lot of wine, well, good on you, right? So
that's right. Well, I was going to say, I know there's been times when my bar tab has been higher than my food bill just because of that. So.
It happens. It definitely happens. Yep. Especially like you said, and you deserve it. As a server, if there's no reason to feel guilty about having someone do that because you've convinced them, hopefully through your knowledge and your expertise, that bottle is going to enhance what they're having for dinner that night.
Right.
So that's always a good thing. So, and to help kind of spur that along, let your managers and your owners of your restaurants know if you're working in that industry that you have an interest in learning more about wine because it's going to make them more money. It's going to make you more money. But if you have a genuine interest in it, they will make opportunities available for you. Vendors come in all the time with wines to taste for the owner to taste or the manager to taste, possibly, hopefully, to get it on a list there. And if you can participate in some of that, you'll learn a lot about wine just by tasting wines. Sometimes they'll bring a winemaker in, or sometimes they'll bring a winery representative in, and you can learn more about it. And anytime you get a chance to do that and learn a story about wine, you're good. It's going to help you. Books, I keep reference books around. Some of my favorites, and I'll put links to some of these, I guess, on my Instagram account later. But Wine Folly is a great book. Madeline Paquette, she does probably probably one of the best jobs of like making things simple and easy to understand.
Us laymen, right?
Exactly, and that's what it's all about. And that's actually a good thing. In the comments below, if you have a favorite wine book that you have, put that in the comments below. We can share some of those. Another one is the Wine Bible from Karen McNeil. She put the first one of these out in the early 2000s, I think 2001. Second edition came out in 2015. A wealth of knowledge in that book right there. One of my favorites. She is actually a podcaster, blogger, just all around cool wine person. Elizabeth Schneider has a book out called Wine for Normal People. Great book. She's got about 10 years worth of podcasts out there that you can go back and listen to and learn from her knowledge. And then the one that probably I learned the most from is called, and it's out of print now, I believe, but you can still find it on Amazon. I have given enough of these books away. It's called Fear of Wine, an Introductory Guide to the Grape. I'd given enough of them away. I didn't have one anymore. And I believe my wife and daughter found one for me and got that for me for Christmas this year. So that was fun. It was good to see that one show up again. And this one even has cartoons in it. So if you're on that level,
even better.
Right. So I listen to a lot of podcasts. That's a good place to go. Wealth of knowledge there. My favorite one is probably the Winemakers out of Sonoma. It's 4 guys. There's 2 winemakers, a sommelier, and a drinker, a guy that drinks wine. The consumer side of things, and they kind of come at it from all angles. It's fantastic. There's another one out there that's really in depth as far as like some of the podcasts are an hour and a half long, called I'll Drink to That by Levy Dalton. He does a great job. There's a new one that's getting ready to come out that I'm really excited about, called The Black Wine Guy Experience from MJ Tyler. He's on Instagram as Black Wine Guy. And really neat guy. I love his Instagram stuff, so I'm really excited about his podcast. He's got some great guests coming up. Wine for Normal People, again, Elizabeth's podcast. Another one out of Sonoma called Wine Women Radio by Marsha Maycomber. She does a great job of highlighting women who work in the wine industry out there, and they come on and they talk about their experiences in that and their products and stuff. And then a brand new one that I just found out about this week from a company, a publication actually called VinePair. It's called Wine 101, and Kevin Beavers is the host of that, and he does a great job of making everything super simple. VinePair typically targets millennials, just kind of from their approach, and they do the whole drinks industry, the whole alcoholic beverage industry, but they kind of focus on wine in some areas, and he's their director of tasting, and he's done a great job on this podcast. So you can get a certification. I do not have any certifications. It's not something I've ever felt the need to do. The Guild of Master Sommeliers is probably the famous one. They made the Somm movies. If you've seen that, that's where they're studying and they're tasting wine incessantly and just flashcards and thousands of dollars spent studying and that kind of stuff. There's the Wine and Spirits Education Trust. WSET is another one. Master of Wine is another one. A lot of folks who aren't in the service side of wine have gotten the Master of Wine that I know of. They're more even in production or something like that. And then if you're interested in getting any of those certifications, there is the Mid-America School of Wine in St. Louis offers a class called Pre-Somm. And it's basically a baseline structured class for people who are interested in getting that certification. So finally, go ahead. I'm sorry. Do you have a question?
I was going to say, that's great. And for us that are here in the St. Louis area, that's kind of in our backyard. So that's definitely something to check out if you're interested. Yeah,
definitely. One of my coworkers, and I'll put a link to that on my Instagram later too. One of my coworkers actually went through that class last spring. Right at the beginning of COVID, so it got kind of weird, but he absolutely loved it. He learned a ton from it. I learned a ton from him. So anyway, but that's a good place to get that baseline. And you never want to miss an opportunity. Like I said earlier, if they come through on a tasting, or if they're on a podcast, to interact with a winemaker at some course. And of course, stories and experience are going to help you sell wine.
Absolutely.
So you'll definitely, if you want to interact with a winemaker, you'll want to tune in October 6th, our final episode of for let's just say for this season. Let's just hope maybe we'll get to
That's
do this
right.
again sometime, right?
That's
Our
right.
final episode of this season, we're going to have a winemaker join us, and we are going to have actually Bart Hansen from Dane Cellars out in Sonoma. Bart has been in the industry for over 30 years. He's worked for some amazing wineries. He worked for Kenwood, for Benziger, Lassiter Wines. He's got his own label again, like I said, Dane Cellars. He's actually one of the hosts on the Winemakers podcast that I talked about earlier.
Nice connection for sure.
Yeah, so definitely tune in, and I'm really looking forward to our chat with him for that.
Oh, I can't wait. That'll be very exciting. Again, October 6th. Don't miss out on that.
Definitely.
So Dave, what is our final wine for this evening?
Well, we're actually going to France, believe it or not.
Ooh la la.
So this is a Rhone blend.
Okay.
So the Rhone River runs through southeast France. It is arguably one of the top 3 wine regions in the country of France. Bordeaux, obviously, some of the biggest, baddest, most prestigious wines come from there. Burgundy, some of the most expensive and elegant wines come from there. And then you have Rhone. I would also throw Champagne as one of the top regions, but I said 3, so we're going to stick to 3.
Okay.
Rhone, a lot of people kind of consider it the wild child of France. They're a little less regimented, possibly,
Okay.
in some extent, but they still have rules. It's still France, so they're not going crazy over there. But
Right.
so it's divided into 2 different regions: the northern Rhone and the southern Rhone. The northern is kind of more prestigious, typically as a whole. Smaller. It's a smaller region than the southern Rhone. Côte-Rôtie, Hermitage are all regions that are up there. Saint-Joseph, Cornas, Condrieu. Those are all wine regions in the northern Rhone.
Okay.
The southern Rhone, great quality, typically a little more affordable, but not always.
Okay.
You got Côte de Rhone, Châteauneuf-du-Pape, Gigondas, Vaccarat, and Costières-de-Nîmes. So Châteauneuf-du-Pape, that's a fun one. That's probably the big southern Rhone wine region that's most famous. And it's literally translates to Newcastle of the Pope. If you search back into papal history, back in the 1300s, a lot of the popes spent a lot of time in Avignon, and so they have the Avignon popes, and so that's kind of where that comes from. And they really love the wine there. They drank a lot of Burgundy, and also kind of helped develop that whole region there.
So who knew we might have Vatican City in France instead of in Italy, right?
Could have been. So yeah, who knew?
Interesting. Who knew?
Yeah. So red blends from the Rhone. There are 27 varietals of grapes that grow in the Rhone. There's only a handful that are really any focus at all. The northern Rhone really focuses more heavily on just Syrah. They blend some other stuff with it, but the southern Rhone, they also focus on Syrah, but also Grenache and Mourvedre. So if you ever see like a GSM, that's a Grenache Syrah Mourvedre blend. Typically, like Rosemount in Australia used to make a GSM. I don't know if they still do or not, but so anyway, Cinsault, Carignan, some other grapes from that area. So they do a lot of really cool wines from there. Climatologically, that's a big word, but the weather in France, in the Rhone especially, is really influenced by the Le Mistral winds. It's winds that kind of come out of the Alps. They travel a lot of ways to get to the Rhone, and then so they pick up speed along the way. They're really strong, really persistent. They are very beneficial in keeping the grapes cooler and drier, especially in the Rhone because it's further south. But they are also strong enough and persistent enough that if you don't plant your new vines correctly, it'll just destroy them. So,
my goodness.
Yeah. Anyway, so this is a different approach to red blends. It's not meant to be palatable. It's meant to go with food. It's meant to be a world-class wine, so to speak. Not that I'm dissing anything that we tasted in the first one we tasted, but this is just on a different level. And so this one is from Costières-de-Nîmes, which is down actually kind of where the Rhone almost meets the Mediterranean.
Oh, nice.
And so it's mostly Grenache with a little bit of Syrah thrown in. So let's see how this one is. You might want to have your charcuterie ready for this one. How did the fig go with the last one, by the way?
Actually, I really liked it. So I thought it kind of paired really nicely. So actually, I think number 2 so far. I said 1, but now I'm 2. So we'll see how 3 goes.
You picked out the cab. Let's try this red blend from the Rhone and see what happens. So. So that a little more tannin.
Yeah, it's for lack of a better word, velvety, like you were talking about, that you could definitely taste it and feel it, and it's kind of got like a thickness, I guess, to it. So, but I did
Viscosity. That's a good wine word for you. It's got good viscosity.
okay. Again, layman's terms,
There you
thickness.
go. There you go.
But I didn't make the face, so that was good.
I
So
noticed that. Yeah.
yeah, so let's try. I'll try a grape and see how it goes. And maybe a piece of cheese.
Yeah, definitely throw the cheese in there. The cheese is good with it. Yeah, so I love Grenache. I think it's pretty amazing. Um, so and that's what this one mostly is. And I think I know we had it in the Spanish rosé.
Mm,
I thought about doing a Grenache Blanc last week or last episode for the white wine, but I'm a Grenache guy. So
that's very nice.
Mhm.
So very nice.
So do you have a favorite?
Actually, I think for tonight I'm gonna go with two.
Number two. There
Number
we go.
2. Yep. So I think that has been my favorite. And I got to tell you, one of the comments it said, everybody needs a friend like Dave to learn and drink with. And I'm like, absolutely. I'm just the lucky one that gets to do it.
That's right. That's right. And I just saw a comment there, that one from Roger. Uh, Actually, this year Bart is not making Chenin Blanc,
Oh,
but that's another story. So,
but he's known for doing that. I mean,
yes,
that's
he has. Yeah, yep. That's kind of an inside joke from the winemakers podcast. So,
so we
anyway,
got to tune in to be able to get the
tune
joke.
in, you'll understand. So, yeah. So,
Oh my gosh, Dave. It has been such an exciting episode. I have learned so much, and I just want to kind of recap some things because it has been amazing to talk about the red wines. I mean, who would have known? I have been missing out, to be honest with you. So we learned about the sulfites and that they are in other foods that we didn't even think about, like cookies and juice and shrimp. We talked about the labels versus the US versus other countries. We learned about 3 new wines. I got to try 3 new wines. So that was exciting. And talking about that gateway, that was a really nice introduction to try and to move forward. So excited about that. We talked about tannins. So, oh my gosh, we've been talking about tannins and to finally learn about the tannins. So the other interesting thing is we talked about the grape harvest and that 1 year could take up to 4 or 7 to even produce a bottle of wine or bottles of wine, and
yep.
that a winemaker really does need to have some patience and, as you said, some money so
Yep.
that it can be an investment for sure. And that if you're in the food or wine industry, to really take advantage of that, to learn about the wines, because that can supplement and help your income. But also, I would think from an owner's perspective or a manager's, that the more that your servers understood or understand the wines and is able to sell it, that's just going to help the business back. So I think that's definitely important as well. And then, oh my goodness, such a plethora of resources and podcasts. I mean, definitely we want to check those out. And as Dave said, he will be putting those on his Instagram account. So really interesting. And so I have a couple that I want to check out myself. And then, of course, we don't want to forget that Bart Hansen is going to be joining us on October 6th. So mark your calendars to make sure everybody is part of that and can join us. So, and last but not least, actually, I have 2 things. Again, I'm going to make a plug for the magnet to go ahead and register for that. And then when you do, you automatically enter to win the wine tote. So I think it's pretty great. And I saw some people said, I want to win that. So that's great.
I want to win that. I don't think I can, but I would love to enter. I might enter another name or something.
That's right. That's right. So, and one last thing, well, I was going to say, if you don't know, don't forget that tonight at 6:30, we actually have a new program. It's called Cooking for Two with Carol Daniel, who is out of KMOX. And she is actually going to be cooking salmon tonight, which, according to the magnet, pairs nicely with a light red wine. So tune in to our Facebook page. That is going to be live. If you can't catch it live, go back and look at it. So she's very entertaining. She's got some other recipes that she's tried with us. And Carol is always up for entertainment and telling stories. And so check that out at 6:30 as well.
Yeah, she does a great job. the corn casserole, I'm taking that to Thanksgiving dinner this year. That was amazing. So,
That's right. That is
so
absolutely right.
yeah,
So
definitely. So next week we'll be here again on Tuesday night, 5 p.m., the 22nd of September. We're talking about sparkling wines because everybody needs a Tuesday night celebration. So,
that's right.
yep, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Dave, again, thank you so much. Again, such a wealth of information, and we appreciate you sharing that with us. I walk away every Tuesday with new information, and I get to try new wines, so that's even better. So until next week, I'm grabbing glass number 2. So until next week, cheers.
Cheers.